I'm taking a break from the quick takes today, and I'm going to go over a couple of old projects of mine. So this one here is a photo frame that I made probably 2007 out of an old Pismo PowerBook. It got featured on Hackaday at the time, and what I did was I took the PowerBook, which I'd got dead from work, pulled out the PRAM battery, pulled out all the necessary bits to get it booting, and sandwiched it between two pieces of Perspex here like this. I wired in a new barrel for connecting power to the thing, using a standard 2.3 millimeter or whatever it is barrel jack instead of the Apple custom one, because it had also come across a few power adapters which the end had come off of. So I was able to use just a generic power supply on this one to get it going. And I wired this switch in, so one direction latches the sleep sensor closed so that it goes to sleep, and the other direction is momentary to turn it on. So momentary on, latch to sleep, and in the middle to just operate the system normally. Kind of cool. I used it for a few years, and then I decided to go for something a little bit more fancy. So I'll show you that one next. So in about 2008, I built this one, which is based on an iBook G3. I don't know if there was anything wrong with it at the time. There is something wrong with it now, and I think actually at the time one of the USB ports was dead. But what I did was I copied the design of the speaker grill on the iBook G3 onto these, and then I copied the design of the grill that they had along the sides, I think it was, and used that as inspiration for these, and then had it laser cut. At the time I was working at a university, and I knew the IT guy for the architecture department who had an Epilogue laser cutter. So I drew it all up in Illustrator and had it cut out, and then assembled it on these three panes here. I actually used it briefly in 2009 as a computer. My house got broken into, all the other computers got stolen. This one was still working, so I plugged a keyboard in and used it for a little while I was dealing with the insurance claim. But today an iBook G3 is pretty much useless. So what I'm going to do today is actually make it a bit more useful. But before I do that, I'll show you the inspiration for what I'm going to do next. So this is a little portable monitor that I've made. Now I actually had this made at the same time as these ones. So I did up the design so that I could use like the little offcuts of plastic from lasering these out to create these corners, and some other offcuts for the front and back of this. You see I also got it engraved with Ductronics on the back there. So this is a 1024 by 768 LCD, sort of, with an effective size of 18 centimeters, which is, 7 inches or something. It's not particularly large. And what I'm going to do is turn this one into a VGA and HDMI display. So this one here does S-video, composite video, DVI and VGA, 12 volts in to power it, and it's handy to have when you're just debugging a system. And so I thought that might also be the case with this one. So I don't have access to a laser cutter anymore, which means that I can't get a nice laser cut back sheet, but I do have access to a table saw. So I'm going to use this frosted piece of Perspex here. I picked this up. My gardener put me in touch with the guy who was demolishing a bank, and this was part of the signage of the bank. So I got a few large sheets for almost nothing, because a sheet of this stuff is like 60, 70 bucks. I don't think it was back when I had these made. I think it was a lot cheaper at the time. Anyway, now it's a lot of money. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to remove the existing back panel, I'm going to remove the internal parts of this, and then I'm going to transfer it onto a new controller, courtesy of the great discount warehouse of AliExpress. Now, when I bought the guts of this one, it was back in, I think it was 2007. I bought it from a store in Tokyo. I think it was also on Hackaday I'd seen it. So at the time, taking an old LCD from a laptop and reusing it as a display was seen as the holy grail by modders and all sorts of enthusiasts. And somebody had found a store in Tokyo, in Akihabara, which let you make your own displays out of your own panels and controllers here. And so I happened to be in Tokyo a little while after that came out, and I bought this whole assembly. I say I had the laser cut done at the same time, so this was in 2008. I got married in 2008, moved to Canada in 2009, lived there until 2016, moved into a new house here in Australia in 2017, and other things took priority until 2020, when I remembered this half-done project. And so I actually finished putting this together in 2020. So I've only had 4 years use out of it, and I will continue to use it. It's very handy, but I think turning the iBook one into a standard display is probably the best use for it right now, because yeah, there's not much use for this anymore. So let's start taking it apart, and we'll do a functional test to make sure that the controller that I bought for it works with the panel and that everything works, and then I will drill new holes for everything to go onto this one. I should say, before I take it apart any further, I never particularly liked how this one came together. It was always my plan to do another piece of plastic to go in the top with holes for the ports and mount the switch in there, which, you know, would have looked a bit better, but never got around to that. And so the switch just flops around. I also wasn't able to do the same thing that I did on the Pismo and solder the plus and minus wires from the power supply directly to the DC inboard. That would have been handy because, again, I had a lot of these that were broken too. So, you know, I made this little box section at the back here, which you can kind of see that holds the power adapter cord in there. And, you know, it works okay, but it means that the cord's permanently tethered to it, which isn't what I'm after in life. So that's another reason that I'm going to disassemble it. The controller board that I've got does actually support speakers. It doesn't come with the connectors for it, and I don't actually have any iBook speakers at this time, so I'm not going to be putting those in, but maybe in the future. Also, setting expectations here. The control panel here, I'm going to have to do something janky with as well. I might have it just hanging out the back for now, because what I did with the smaller display was I drilled holes to match up to each of the buttons, and then stuck a clear plastic screw in between the button and the piece of plastic, and then held the controller board under tension on there, so when you press on the end of the screws, this comes through, and that's kind of cool. I'm not sure I have got enough of these little screws to do that again. So yeah, for first steps, we'll take it apart, check that it all works. One of the things that worries me is that I've got LTN 121X1 on here, because I thought that was the model of display on here, but I'm looking closer and it's actually an LP121X1, which means that it's an LG display instead of a Lighton or AU Optronics. I can't remember who had that model number, but because they're both very similar displays and they're interchangeable second source ones, it should work okay. Fingers crossed. All right, let's get inside this. I'm kind of proud of how I actually put this together. Cut all these little cutout pieces to just sit into slots at the back of the LCD to hold the DC inboard in place, and also let the power cable go in. Now you have the question of how is this held in here, and I think it's just these little screws here. So that was easy. Okay, so I'm going to be putting a new display cord into this, so I think I can just pull this out and I believe my kit comes with, my kit comes with a new inverter, so I don't need this one. So let's open it up and see how it goes. Okay, that should be all the connections that we need. So next step is to find 12 volts. I recently scrapped a whole bunch of network equipment and I made sure to keep the power supplies because I noticed a lot of it was 12 volts. So now I just need to find somewhere to plug it in and we can give it a shot. Okay, it's not that much later and it's just started raining, and I've got it working. So one of the things I found out about this was that you need to have a video input just connected to it or it won't work. So I actually have the output of the iPhone that I'm using to record this plugged into a USB-C to VGA adapter, then plugged into the board, because that's what I had around, but this board also does DVI and HDMI, so I'm sure that'll be okay. So I'm going to now start to mount all the electronics and put it all back together. On this middle piece of plexiglass, I actually still have got the scratch protected layer on here, so this is where we put the 70s bow chicken music. Now, I bought a roll of VHB from a local hardware store a few years ago and used it on a few projects, and it was great. So I bought a roll of AliExpress, and the allegedly VHB tape, I don't think is actually made by my friends at the Minnesota Mining and Minerals Corporation, whatever 3M stands for, because it doesn't stick very well. So I'm just using some craft double-sided tape here, foam backed, which will hopefully not come and bite me. And it's, for these purposes, it's fine. So it's holding in place the plastic shield here, which just holds in the inverter board. And likewise for this, if I roughly center it there, and another on here, under where the speaker would go if it had one. And this, being foam back, lets it conform to all the little legs and stuff on here, so that'll be good. Where were we? Top and there, and right. That ain't going anywhere. Okay, so here it is, all put together and on a nice messy bench, providing a temporary display. I think it worked out exactly as I was hoping it was going to. I'll come back in the future when I've got some speakers for it and I do something a bit more interesting with the control panel. But for now, thanks for watching and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.